Welcome to another episode of the Creative Doers podcast. We're super excited to have a special guest with us here today. We have David Conrado he's the CEO of D&D Body Shop.
Yes, sir.
And we're super excited to have you, man. Welcome to the show.
Right on. Thank you. Appreciate it for having me.
So we definitely want to talk about a couple of things, obviously, throughout our podcast session today. We definitely want to touch on just you a little bit about yourself, right? Talk about your experiences. We'll talk about the automotive industry as a whole, kind of some things that we can add in terms of adding value to the audience, right? Mm-hmm. Talking about different touch points in the industry itself, and then from there, we can kind of dabble off and have some fun, man.
Let's do it.
So I would love to start off with just asking you, what are some of your responsibilities, at D&D? Like, what does a day-to-day look like for you? So people kind of get an idea of as to what your role is here at the shop.
Yeah, I my day pretty much starts checking in from beginning to end. Beginning meaning like the front staff, making sure that they're doing everything that is required for the day, whatever the daily tasks are. And then from there, I kind of move on to different departments to kind of do the same thing. Like most CEOs or most people running businesses, it's about preventing fires, hopefully.
Absolutely.
And not letting things, overwhelm you and go over your head. So definitely first thing is check in and check in with my production manager, check in with my estimator, help where I can as far as the day-to-day. Besides that, overall sales, getting you accounts. I still deal with customers for the most part, but I kind of try to push them off to my estimator just because I want one point of contact for everything. But besides that, that's my day to day.
Awesome, man. I definitely agree. Obviously, we're wearing multiple hats. At the end of the day, that's kind of what we're doing. And so for the most part, I'd love to hear too. I mean, obviously with being a CEO, right, and having a business, there's obviously a story behind the shop. How I got started and how you guys got started in the industry. So I'd love to hear sort of like why did you get started and how did you get started in the automotive industry?
The business, actually, my folks started it. Both immigrant parents. They came here, or they didn't come. The business started actually around 9/11, a month or two after. Obviously, 9/11 that brought in a lot of complications for a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses, didn't do so well after that. So the chances of immigrant family starting a business, and at that time it was difficult, but we're here 21 years later, almost 21 years later, and I kind of took it over, brought a whole business, more educated background, I guess, if you will, to the company, but established different procedures, kind of made it a little bit more professional, even revamped the image of the business, actually got a logo done, and partnered with you guys for my marketing. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Awesome, man. I think it's really cool too. I know since I've known you, we've got to know each other a little bit, and I think it's really cool that you've mentioned too that besides the automotive industry too, you've actually tapped in and dabbled with the music industry too, which I think is pretty cool. Having an artistic element, and to even being a CEO too, I think I love to always highlight as well because I'm being a creative myself. I always want to put that obviously into I guess you could say a pedestal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty cool. So I'd love to hear about that as well,
Yeah, I mean, for me, music has been a passion of mine. Actually, music was my direction. I got a degree in engineering. I played drums for 15 years. So that was the thing that I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, it shifted when, I don't know, business is something special about it. You learn to appreciate the process of doing something. And business, there's a lot of processes, and if you enjoy a journey, you enjoy taking a business from nothing or maybe it's already established, but taking it beyond. And that was kind of my shift, because for me, if I have my recording studio, I actually still have a recording studio that I partnered up with other associates, but that's more of me now as an investor. But now this is pretty much solely my main thing is the body shop.
That's cool, man. I think also too, you've been able to add an element to I think the next generation, right? Within the shop itself, I think there's something special here too, that you've been able to add as well, and like you said, multiply kind of what you guys have already been doing. You know, seeing different things from a different perspective. You know, obviously you're in a different generation, and so I think adding that element to the shop too is always a great thing to have as well. And it's very fortunate too, and great to hear that you're in still, you know, this business is still going within the family, because obviously, you know, sometimes with the next generation, some of the kids just don't want to take the pressure on to actually growing more of the business or take that on the responsibility.
Sell it, make the money, sell it.
Yeah, sell it, exactly, bro. So I think it's really cool the fact that, you know, you continue to, you know, persevere and actually want to grow this, you know, and continue the legacy and move it forward.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's you said it exactly right. For me, it's more the legacy. You know, they started something, and I could not just see it just go to waste. It's, you know, it's something that they worked hard to get, and they've worked hard to, even harder to maintain it. So, you know, me coming in is more of a, you know, homage to my folks, because they took the biggest step, which was starting it. Which a lot of people, it's difficult to even just take that leap, you know, especially them not knowing. My dad, I mean, obviously immigrant parents, they don't know English, you know, perfectly, or, you know, without whatever their hesitations were, they said, you know what, screw this, I'm just gonna follow what I want to do, and, you know, take a hold of it and do it.
Absolutely, man. And that's another thing too, I was excited to have you on the show as well, is because I think, you know, you being coming from a Latino background, right, having that culture there, and kind of just seeing that kind of manifest, you know, with you being the next generation, and you know, obviously I have immigrant parents myself too. Being a Latino is something to me that's very, obviously I want to highlight, and very important as well. So I think that's really cool, that the fact that, you know, you guys are continuing to grow, like I said, within the family, and you're keeping that very close, you know, because some people,
for sure,
they just want to take up that responsibility, you know.
So
that's dope, man. I think that's great.
Right on.
I would love to hear too, just like what is the mission of the shop as a whole, like the mission and vision of the shop, you know, like just seeing things from a different perspective, you know, and adding that new element, you know, of you being here, and, you know, obviously wanting to grow it, right? What is sort of the mission and vision for D&D Body Shop?
Well, my vision for the shop is, and I'll say mine because as the leader, that's kind of the direction. The business goes the direction the leader puts, you know, as far as the vision is.
Right.
Luxury. For me, luxury and exotic cars is the vision. I want to say within the last 2 to 3 years, mind you, COVID happened, so that put a damper on a few things. So that probably set us back a year if you really look at it. But
yeah, that year doesn't count.
Exactly, that year doesn't count. So we're just starting pretty much fresh again.
Right.
Getting these accounts that are, you know, the people that I've been able to meet. You know, I will say this about COVID: it allowed me to reset. Right. It allowed me to go out and meet certain people, make these connections where it's about timing, right? If you're in the right time, and you get in on the right time, you talk to a person at the right time, the possibilities are, you know, anything could happen. So that's actually what it led for me, was during COVID, I've met certain people that have sent me customers with exotics and, you know, luxury cars. So I can't really say, I mean, COVID, obviously, it was a bad thing, right? Obviously. Right. But it allowed to kind of revamp the business. You know, we went from 12 to 15 employees down to 7. You know, even I took actually some time off for myself. I had my daughter, so I kind of used that time to just spend with her. So it had some nice things, if you will, if that's, you know, for lack of better terms.
You made the best of it.
I made the best of the situation, yeah. And the timing, every timing just kind of led to what it was. But yeah, to going back to your question, you know, the mission for me is being the best. And I think in the peninsula we lack body shops that are doing exotic cars and doing luxury vehicles. We have a lot of shops doing like the Range Rovers and the Jags and the BMWs, Mercedes, but nobody's really doing Ferraris, nobody's really doing Lamborghinis, Aston Martins. Up to this point, we've been blessed enough to kind of start getting involved with that and getting in and building a niche specifically for that. That's what my end goal is.
Absolutely. And I think you guys have done an amazing job with that too, because obviously, like you said, there's not many shops out there doing it. And I think when you niche down, you start to, even though the community isn't as big as you can always get, right? Like, for example, if you guys are doing just general work for a bunch of other cars, like just domestic vehicles, right? You guys are specifically focusing on a foreign. Even though that community might be smaller, it still is somewhat really good because it's a tighter community. Right. So I think that's really good dynamic as you guys as a shop that are adding, you know, to the industry as a whole. You know what I mean? And especially within this area here in the Bay Area. So I think that's awesome, man. Where do you? I'm always curious to ask this question too, because I feel like, you know, the way that things are moving with electric vehicles and kind of what's been happening with just the new technology in vehicles as a whole. Where do you see, you know, like the next 10 years in like, where do you see the auto body industry in like in the next 10 years? You know,
that's a tough question because I actually had I had some students from. I had one of my clients is a auto instructor in right here in San Mateo High School, and he had a few of his students come in and they asked me the same question, and I really didn't know how to answer that because the reality is that we don't know. Technology is growing so fast in vehicles that it's going to be to a point where they're completely going to be controlled by AI. That means they're essentially they're going to be perfect. There's not going to be that many accidents. So, but I think there's still going to be a niche for classic cars. There's still going to be a niche for vehicles that don't have the safety features that the maybe 2015 and up vehicles do. So there's still 10 years from now, I think those cars are still going to be around. Maybe we go into more of a calibration type of business where we start calibrating these vehicles instead of repairing them. I don't have a definitive answer for it because I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think the way that things, it can go either way. But I think
can,
one thing's for sure is that you're right. The way that technology is going, they're trying to minimize. Every car is the priority is
to
how
make
do we
it
make
safe.
it safe.
Right.
Exactly. Right. So I think that's the biggest priority, especially amongst a lot of even the electric vehicles that are going to be coming out. That is a big, big topic. And so I think you're right. I mean, how many accidents are there going to be on the road?
Right.
You know, and if there is, how bad is it going to be?
Right.
So,
I mean, if you look at the cars nowadays, well, even just now, you have vehicles that self-adjust. If you're veering off the lane a little bit, it automatically pushes you back into the center. So, I mean, that's the beginning of what's next. It's pretty much self-driving cars as well. That's another point. You have a self-driven vehicle. That means they have the technology. They have sensors to read their area. They could stop automatically. I mean, we're definitely headed there.
Yeah. Cool. So, perfect, man. No, definitely 100% agree with you on that. What advice do you think you'd give? Because I think you guys have a specific niche here, right? And so for those individuals out there in our audience that's listening that maybe has an exotic vehicle, right? Maybe they get into an accident. Maybe they have a ding on their vehicle. Maybe they have some type of repair they gotta work on, you know? What advice would you give them and those exotic car owners on how to look for the right body shop? You know, because not all shops specialize in what you guys do. So what is some advice that you give them, you know, in regards to how they should actually be looking for shops or trusted shops?
I think that although they're all different, but the care of doing it, the meticulousness of doing it is already established. And so that right there is one big indicator. Just look at the cars that they're working on now. And then also, so their online presence, their social media presence, and actually visiting the shop. I mean, we're not a product selling business, right? The body shops still have a location, so you can still go and visit them. If you want to do the extra effort, then visit the shop. You know, see how they interact with you, see how people. Because for me, it's about not just the car; it's about the customer. You know, if you're taking care of the customer, of course they're going to leave you the car because the customer already feels like they're being taken care of. Right. So I think for me, social media. If you want to do the quick legwork, pictures on websites, social media, and then lastly would be to actually go and visit the shop in person.
Definitely. So research for sure is important. 100%. Yeah, and I think also too the way the brand obviously carries stuff, the information. The shops that are specializing in that kind of niche, you know, should already have some type of just an idea, or I would say just like a really good visual or brand identity when it comes down to that, because you know what kind of customers you're dealing with, you know, and they're looking for that kind of expertise and that attention to detail, you know, and so I think those are all, like you mentioned, all things that are important, you know, for the most part. So, I mean, now that obviously the industry is changing as we're progressing, and so what are some things you feel like are like from when you guys first started that has like changed the most up until now?
What has changed the most
in terms of just when you guys first started the business, you know? How do you think, like, until now?
I mean, technology is definitely the biggest change, but technology in vehicles, because you always have to learn the amount of information that's out there because of the internet, because there's companies like iCar. The knowledge to be able to do things and develop your company, I think that's changed. Because you weren't able to do that before. Yeah, you were able to get iCar certified or gold, but the knowledge that you had to do, for example, if you wanted to fix a certain car, you couldn't do it unless you were partnered with the dealership. Now that's changed. It's more open. You could go and, let's say you want to fix a Range Rover, you could go to their website and subscribe to a month or a week or whatever their terms are, and you get that information. Before, you didn't have that.
Gotcha.
Pair procedures on how to do something right. Yeah, I think those are the biggest changes nowadays.
On this topic of technology too, I think a lot of shops obviously have prioritized a lot of data collection, right? So how do you think that collecting data helps other shop owners? Why do you think that that's important in terms of collecting information from clients, or having a system, right, that you can actually do that with? Like, why do you think that's important for other shop owners out there to actually have that data, within the system?
Well, I think it comes down to analytics. So if you have numbers, you can kind of see how your business is really doing. Right. And then if your data, if you have a customer list, you could run promos. You could. Was that what you're talking about as far as data?
Yeah. That for sure, and also too, just like even tracking, jobs and things like that. The importance of making sure that you actually input information. But like you said, like customer lists, running campaigns, things like that. For sure, like the benefits of basically being organized. In that sense.
Yeah, because the one of the things that you don't want to do is lose track of your customers.
Right.
If you're able to have a method of tracking them, or not tracking them, but reaching back out to them and some way having them back into the shop, whether it be a detail promo, dent repair promo, whatever it is, you're engaging with your audience. You're engaging with people that already know you, but you're reminding them. Because sometimes people, they have a life. They're doing their day to day. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about whatever it is that they're worried about. Sometimes a body shop is the last thing. But, detail the car. They get a coupon. Oh, cool. Let me actually do this. I've been meaning to do this. And it's there on the spot. So it's not an easy conversion, because not everything is that simple. But it's still it could be a conversion.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I wanted to ask that too, because I know I've experienced myself where, I've worked with shops too, that don't have any type of place where they're storing data, or they're not using that. They're not making a priority to actually, get customer information and to be able to communicate with the client. Maybe just even on not even from a marketing standpoint, but also from an operational standpoint too, where it's like, oh man, we have to inform this client on what we're doing with their vehicle. So how do we communicate with them? We can't do that without information or a system that we're texting them through or emailing them through. And so I think part of that, even that customer satisfaction, right, and customer service, to be able to walk the client through the whole process, like, hey, we just moved your vehicle, onto the next process, and onto the next stage, and just that peace of mind also too is also beneficial, at the end of the day. I think too. And so
I think it's very important to have a management system that caters to what you want to do. Because, for example, our management system, it sends automatic text messages to a customer, or email, depending on what you're setting. It gives them a reminder or update. Hey, your car's here now in this place, or in this stage of the repair. It's going to paint now, or it's almost done, or almost there. It allows us to text customers as well, because some people nowadays text is just a lot easier. Everybody just a quick text, boom, go back doing what they're doing. Definitely having that. The funny thing about our industry, it's very archaic. We're at the end of everything when it comes to technology and when it comes to what's new, right? Management systems, they're kind of fairly new. But you go to restaurants, they have management systems. You go to any type of store, retail store, they have management systems. So I definitely think it's important to get one, because it makes data collection, like you said, it makes it easier.
Right.
You put the customer's info in, you put the email, you put the address, boom, you already have a point of contact for them, which could lead to something in the future.
Right. Absolutely, man. No, I think that's definitely 100% true. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make decisions based off of information that we collect, and so that as a whole gives you a perspective of where your business is. So I think clarity for sure is like one of the biggest things the benefits, of that as well. So that's great, man. I think now that we're on, we're talking about, obviously you guys are a body shop, and there's probably folks out there that get into accidents, right? And God forbid, obviously they don't, right? But in certain situations, and they're going through that process, you're like, oh man, like my insurance company just gave me a preferred list, you know, and now they're like, oh, I think I gotta go there, you know, or are these my only options, you know? So people just don't really know sometimes that whole process and what that looks like, you know.
Yeah.
When they get into such a traumatic experience like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so what are your thoughts on preferred lists that insurance companies provide after people get into accidents? You know, do you think, like, how do you think they can maneuver around that? Do they have options?
Yeah, they have. They actually, well, technically in California, they have the choice is theirs. It's illegal for an insurance company to steer you to go to one of their shops. Now, they're doing it for several reasons. Obviously, they're getting cheaper labor. They're getting cheaper parts. So, of course, it's an insurance benefit for you to go to their shop because it's cheaper for them. Yeah. So you definitely have a choice. Actually, part of my job, or part of our job as an estimator, and, you know, our service side of the business is educating. You know, we have to educate our customers. These are the steps that you should take. This is what you could do. The industry, I think, in that sense, has changed a lot, going back to your earlier question, where it's about getting the estimate of the insurance and not about really shopping around and getting the best estimate. Because insurance companies are going to look at the estimate and just put it to the side. They're not going to consider it because ultimately they're going to write their own and then lowball it. Because the goal really is for insurance company to save. So they're going to write you a lowballed estimate. They're banking on you accepting that check, not doing the repairs, and boom, they're not paying any more money for the repairs.
Right.
So they're hoping that you cash settle.
Right.
So that's kind of my thing on insurance companies. But going back to the list, no, you don't have to go there.
Gotcha.
It's completely up to you. If you have a shop that you trust and it's not on that list, good shops for the majority of the time are not going to be on the list.
Right.
Because there's a lot of insurance company driven body shops, and they're MSO, just they're multi operational, multi-shop operations. The ones that are not insurance driven are normally the ones that try to be the most in as far as quality, try to have the best quality. So I would definitely just be cautious as to that list. Look at the reviews as well. Yeah. Nowadays, everything's on Yelp, everything's on Google, so you can see reviews and make help you make your choice.
Just keep the options open. Yeah, basically. Keep your options open, and that's for the most part. You know, we want to be able to have options and be able to expand on those horizons in terms of making sure you have you go to the best body shop, and you make your own decisions. Like you said, go there, physically go there, talk to them, look at their online presence and whatnot, and yeah, absolutely, man. So that's good, great. I mean, for the most part, again, God forbid, any of the audience, gets to accidents, but that's something I feel like a lot of people, they tend to steer to want to go to.
Come to D&D no matter what they say.
There you go. Perfect, man. So I definitely want to tap into too as well, from an operational standpoint. Obviously, as a leader, you have a team here, man, of amazing people that you work with. And I think for the most part, churn rate amongst, teams sometimes can be an issue for some shops. And so I'd love to touch base on, like, how do you manage to keep a team for long term? How do you ensure that? What are some things that you have done and are doing to help, one, people stay motivated, but also to keep them inside the shop? Because right now, hiring is, finding quality people is tough right now in the industry, right? A lot of shops are feeling it where it's like, damn, I'm trying to find a tech. I'm trying to find, a bodyman. I'm trying to find a good estimator, right? And so what are some things that you guys are doing to, prevent any type of churn amongst employees?
You kind of have to, unfortunately, not really unfortunately, because I feel like the ones that you kind of grow in-house are the ones that believe in your vision and believe in what you're doing. That's why they're here. But you have to give people purpose. You give them purpose, you give them a direction, you give them, a straight line to get to their financial goals. I think that keeps people around for a long time. If, for example, my estimator started as a front desk person, and then he moved over to parts, and now he's doing estimating. You dabble in a little bit of each area, so you know what you're getting into. And then if you like it, you kind of see where you want to go. He's also a mechanic. I'm like, do you want to do a mechanic? If you want to do that, you could.
Nice.
And he's like, no, I like the shop. I like being in the back office. I like helping customers. Right. So perfect. There's the avenue is available to you. And that's another, going back to the COVID thing, that helped in that sense as well, as far as restructuring the business. Because we didn't have the 12 people. All right, we're losing X amount of dollars now, so we can't afford this amount of people anymore. So where can we downsize, and what is essential?
Right. What's needed?
What is needed
right now? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is needed right now to survive and to make things better and to bring longevity. So right now, actually, the sales has gotten better. You know, kind of things are opening up again. There's definitely a lot more cars on the freeway than with the COVID time, but we're still the same 7 people. We haven't gone back up to 12. We haven't, you know, so with the same 7 people that we've had, we were definitely overly staffed before COVID.
Right.
So now that we have the 7 people, we're holding on to that until, you know.
You absolutely need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we're even that calculation is super calculated.
Right.
We're not just going to just bring somebody to just bring it because it doesn't make sense.
Right. It sounds like the team is very tight-knit at this point right now, you know, and,
exactly.
and the people that you have here are going to be here, you know, and then you guys keep that very close, which I think is good. When obviously it's a priority when team building, like you said, having purpose and making sure everybody understands the vision, you know, and all going in the same direction.
Yeah, basically. And not micromanage them. You micromanage them, you're just a dick. I see a lot of bosses. That's kind of where they fail. They micromanage. They tell them, oh no, no. Trust them in what they're hiring. You're hiring professionals.
Right.
Trust them to be professionals. Now, if you hire somebody that's not professional, you hired them.
Exactly.
You know, take that responsibility.
Absolutely.
And do better when you hire the next person. It's all on you, really, as a leader.
Yeah.
So you know, it's really up to you to build your check boxes, your mental check boxes, or you know, write them down on paper. And when you're interviewing somebody, make sure you're asking the right questions, so that way they're not failing later on.
Right. Right. Making better decisions based off of whatever situations you've already been through.
That's right.
That's great, man. I think that brings me to the next question too, because I think within that hiring process, you know, I think it's important for you to look at specific things, and so. Especially when, you know, like, for example, what are some things that you look for when hiring an estimator, you know, in the shop? Like, what are some key things that you feel like stick out to you, you know, as a whole, as to giving you the green light saying, hey, yep, this is our guy or this is our girl, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are some things for you that stick out to you? You know?
We actually went through this fairly recently with hiring an estimator for our other location. I honestly look for their physical skill as far as their sheet and see how good they are. Sadly, the part is a lot of these estimators that are looking for jobs and looking to, you know, get more money, they're coming out of shops that are insurance-driven shops. So their estimates are normally not the greatest estimates. Right. So for them, I've learned to put that aside, because estimates you can always teach. Writing estimates you can always teach because that's technical, right? So you could teach that. But their overall, their demeanor when they speak to you, when you have to ask the right questions, like I was saying earlier. Yeah. You know, of what do you believe in? What do you believe? Like, to me, first of all, every time I interview somebody, I tell them off the bat, we're a hospital, not for humans, but we're a hospital for cars. So when people come to the shop, they're not here normally in, you know, the best of mental condition because they just went through something traumatic. Right. So what would you do if this person came to you crying, asking about what's the next step? And then I listen to them and see how they handle the question. Normally, honestly, what I look for in somebody is humbleness and empathy. If they're able to empathize with the customer, that's the person I want on my team. Right. Because they're able to deal with the situation and help the person the way that our culture believes that we're supposed to. Right. The way that we teach it, the way that I teach it. I want you to empathize with them, listen to what they're saying, and help them every way you can.
Absolutely, man. And I think going back to it too, getting out of a traumatic experience like that, like you said, it's not something easy, you know, to just think about, you know, especially dealing with all the insurance, you know, stuff and bringing your vehicle here and trying to get it fixed. It's just like a whole bunch of stuff you got to deal with. Yeah. You know, not even including the fact that your body probably still hurts, you know, from whiplash or whatever the case may be. And so I think throughout that process, it's definitely, like you said, I love the analogy, you know, of the hospital, because it's true. You kind of you're basically trying to alleviate a lot of the pain that they're going through in that moment, you know, whether or not, you know, it's just a vehicle, it's maybe a small ding, or if it's a big accident, either or, you know, it's making sure that the vehicle is getting back on the road safely, and they are too, you know. Right. And so, because if the vehicle is
the priority.
Yeah, because if their vehicle isn't safe, obviously once it goes back out, it's like, you know. So just making sure that they're back on the road safely, which I think that's amazing, man. It's good to hear. So right now, obviously, you know, there's a lot of talk with parts, you know, and you know, it's been it's a conversation that a lot of shops right now in this moment are kind of experiencing, where it's like, man, parts are taking forever, parts are just delayed, you know. And so, what are some things that you guys are doing, or even recommend too, you know, for other shops that may be going like, how is D&D dealing with a lot of this delay in parts right now at the moment?
The part that's on the estimate, like if it has a scratch or something, it's just cosmetic.
Right.
Then I'm like, I'll just reuse this, and you pay me to assemble it, and then you pay me again to do it later when the part comes in. Given the circumstance, everybody's going through it. They're like, okay. Insurance companies, for the most part, are about the average. If the average shop is asking for it, then that means it's required. So normally that's the negotiation that kind of takes place. But unfortunately, if there's parts where you're just not going to see them,
yeah,
you just got to hold the car. The worst part of the whole part situation is insurance companies are not extending rentals. So customers are having to pay for rentals. And sometimes they try to, you know, hey, body shop, you know, cover me a little bit. But I'm kind of the policy, and that's what you have. Like, you know, you got to upgrade your policy. Because of COVID, cars are not $25 anymore. You know, you want to rent a good car, it's $35, $40.
Yep.
So you got to go and update your policy. A lot of people don't even care about that. You should. Yeah. You should. Just same as getting OEM parts in your policy.
Right.
Go tell these people that you want to upgrade your policy, because if not, everybody's looking for the cheapest rate. Where they're going to cut you at, it's going to be at your parts.
At the parts.
Yeah, they're going to tell you, they're going to put in there in the fine print, you know, allowing alternative parts. When you do that, you're kind of you're shooting yourself in the foot. Right. Because every time I go and fight for you and say, and the customer requested OEM parts, oh, this is a policy. They don't allow it.
Yeah, and I think too, you know, and that's where aftermarket obviously, you know, comes into play and whatnot. So I think for sure, man, and seeing that insurance policy, making sure that's updated and reviewed, I mean, that's good advice, you know, for the most part. So obviously, hopefully, you know, things get better.
We're still having a bunch of delays still.
Yeah.
I think it's getting like slightly better, where they're telling us, oh, a month, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later the parts show up.
That's good, man. Cool. Well, I think too, obviously with you being an entrepreneur, you know, obviously, you know, you face challenges, and like you said, you're a firefighter, right? You put out fires, and so what are some things, like what are some challenges like that you face in terms of just in the industry, you know? What are some of the biggest challenges you feel maybe you've overcome, or for the most cases, you know, for other shops out there too to listen that might be going through the same thing, you know, what are some things that you've experienced that maybe you've gotten out of that you know you'd like to share?
I think the body shop industry is very saturated. So there's a lot of business like kind of spread throughout. So I think the hardest thing would be, I mean, if you asked me that question prior to COVID, it might have been a different answer, but post COVID, it's like get whatever you can get. You know, do whatever you can and get whatever you can get, because at this point there's just not much of it going around. Again, it's getting better, but just keep at it. I mean, really, it's gonna get better. Just, you know, try to stay afloat in time for now, you know, and do whatever you can to stay afloat. You know, there's been situations where we've had 1 or 2 cars in the shop, you know, and we couldn't do much. We had to let people go. We've had to let people rest for a week. So, you know, we've gone through it, you know, and until things get 100% to where it's back, you know, you got to control your costs. Definitely control your costs. If you're still paying for things that you don't need to be paying for, it's a luxury. You know, then of course things are going to get out of hand. But I think the biggest thing right now is just kind of surviving and trying to thrive in a place where the majority is just trying to survive. Get more accounts. You know, I know that's a matter of politics for the most part, but it's about timing. Like I said earlier, if you don't know who's not happy with a certain person, and you could just go in and meet them at the right time, and boom, you got their business now. You know? So I think it's not being afraid to go out and do what you have to do to maintain your business and grow it.
Absolutely. And I've also you know, been in conversations before too with like other shop owners that, you know, going DRP might be a better option, right? Or in a time where they're independent and they're like, oh man, like, you know, this franchise looking to buy me out, you know? In that situation, I mean, what are your thoughts in regards to just being a DRP shop versus an independent shop? You know, what are some of the benefits of, you know, being an independent shop, you know, or maybe, you know, going DRP, you know? So I feel like that's always a talk too. So I'd love to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, I mean, everything is dependent on what your current situation is. For example, if you're older and you're already trying to phase out and you have an opportunity to sell, you know, and your kids don't want it or you don't have anybody to pass it on to,
right,
then obviously do what's best for you and sell it.
Exactly.
If it's a question of whether you want to be a DRP shop or you want to stay, I mean, it's a matter of do you want to sell your soul or do you want to really emphasize quality?
Yeah.
Not to say that every insurance company or every shop that works for insurance companies sell their soul, but you're more controlled.
Right.
You know, there's certain things that you can't do as a DRP and that won't let you do because you're a DRP. Then if you were not DRP, you could get away with. You know, OEMs right now, OEM certifications is a big thing where a lot of insurance companies are fighting certain procedures. And if you're DRP, you won't get certain things paid for. You know, like for us, we're Maserati certified, Ford certified. So we're DRP. We have a DRP with an insurance company right now, and it just started. I actually had stopped all DRPs because it wasn't really making any money, and then COVID happened, and no storage when you're DRP. So you know, there was a lot of the cars that you were getting. Sometimes there were pretty big accidents, and you couldn't charge insurance company storage. That's what you lose.
Yep.
You lose in storage if you get DRP. You know, weigh your options out. DRP does give you steady work. There is definitely a benefit to it. MSOs, obviously, they're quick turnarounds. That's how they make their money. They're just, you know, boom, boom, no quality, really. They have good paint, but for the most part, they're not detailing the cars. You know, that's something that we offer our customers. If you have a pretty substantial repair, we're going to fully detail your car. If it's like a bumper job, we'll probably just do like a car wash. But still, it's beyond just cleaning up the car and clean up the areas that you worked on and deliver the car. No, every car that comes through the shop, as part of the quality, you know, the insurance companies don't pay for that.
Right.
But we do it because we want to make sure that our product is leaving the shop immaculate.
It's quality over quantity.
That's right. And unfortunately, if you're fully MSO, again, going back to that, you're losing that side of it.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to weigh it. For us, it made more sense to bring a DRP because, again, the influx, the volatility of the industry and what we were getting as work was up and down. So if we get DRP, it kind of gives us a steady level of business.
Right.
It makes sense for us. But yeah, again, I'm not completely turning down or shutting off DRPs. I mean, people got to do what they got to do. As long as you can keep your quality, if you're going for quality, then just know that DRPs are going to sacrifice a little bit of that quality. It's a key-to-key turnaround time.
Right.
Get the car done as quickly as you can. So you sometimes you lose a little bit of that quality.
Gotcha, man. And what do you think, like, for the most part, how do you think marketing plays a big contribution? Because like you said, I think the automotive industry is always kind of catching on to things a little bit later, you know? And there's certain things with technology that I feel like with marketing obviously goes hand in hand, you know? And how do you feel like, or why do you think, you know, from a marketing standpoint within the business, it's important for shops to market or reach out to specific audiences or run campaigns? What are some of the benefits that you feel as to why some shop owners should, you know, have something like that in place?
I think because everybody nowadays has a social presence, or online presence, through social media or through just, you know, they know how to browse the internet. The more you are out there on social media and on the internet, the more eyes you'll catch. Right now, physically, you're only getting the people that refer you or that pass by you, but that's a little bit limited. When you have a social media presence and you have marketing, then those are more eyes that are looking at your business that you didn't have before.
Right.
So it allows you to open up a little bit more and get more business elsewhere. Your name is out there more than what it would be without the marketing.
The brand presence. Well, for sure, man. I think we've definitely, you know, we've covered, you know, a lot of good material, you know, we touched base on obviously the industry as a whole, where we see it, electric vehicles, and kind of tapped into also too just the industry is like the day to day, right? What you do here, operations and whatnot. I got one last question for you, bro.
Yeah.
When are we hopping on the drum set together?
Hey, it'll take time. It's like riding a bike. It'll take time to catch into. I was like doing different things. I was like, man, this is weird. I haven't touched a drum set in so long.
Well, for the folks that before we started the podcast, I was just telling David how much I wanted to hop on. I was like looking for like a studio room, you know, to try to let some steam off because David and I share the same interests where, you know, him and I, you played a drum set for 14 years?
15 years, yeah.
15 years. I played for 5 years. I haven't hopped on a drum set and man, it's been like, don't know, been like 5 years probably.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's just nice to share, you know, the creative side, you know, you as an owner having a creative side, and then obviously, you know, growing the business here, man.
Yeah, I think as a business owner, you have to have a creative side.
Absolutely,
you have to get creative
for sure.
Yeah, you do different things and pull out different objects out of the magic hat and figure out what works for your business. So I think music is what allows you to do that. Your creativity, right? They say you have to have different hobbies, right?
Right.
Creative hobby. I don't even know what the other stuff is, but the
yeah.
point is to have a creative hobby so you could be creative in other ways.
Well, yeah, man, no, I think that's cool. I think you're definitely right, bro. You have to have a creative side for the most part, you know. So we can definitely say that that's what David likes to do for fun, right? I mean, I was going to ask you next. What does David like to do for fun, man, for the most part?
Man, well, right now it's getting in the gym, man. COVID weight got me, you know.
I know you told me you lost like 20 pounds already, right? So
get close to it. I'm getting there. Yeah, I'm getting there. Man. But for fun, I don't know, man. Honestly, I've been a little bit of a family man more than anything. I have my daughter, so I've been, you know, get home, get with her. Is, you know, my girlfriend. We chill. Yeah. Family time really is what it is. I mean, I've enjoyed my youth.
Right.
So I done a lot of
next stage.
Yeah. Onto the family doing that thing. So yeah, that's what I'm doing for fun right now.
Back to the, what is it? Was it 4-day hangovers now?
Oh man, yeah.
A week hangovers.
Yeah. Once you stop doing all that, it definitely catches up on you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, cool, man. It was great having you on the show, man. I think I'd love the podcast. I mean, again, you're our first guest that we've explored outside of us doing our podcast. So I think this is a really cool session, and we're going to continue to have more guests, you know, from the automotive industry, just kind of speak their minds. Mm-hmm. But this has been a great turn. I mean, I really enjoy everything we covered, man. I appreciate you being on the show.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I respect you and your family. You as a family man now too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm gonna get there one day.
You gotta get a passport first.
I know, I gotta get a passport first. Literally, man, I got some things to see for sure. Yep. I got some things to see, but thanks for being on the show, man. For again, you guys, thanks for tuning in to us. Look out for our next episode, and we'll drop this one shortly. So, see you guys on the next episode.